Hi everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of Imagination Nature. I'm your host, Dell, Cullum. I'm here at Wyborg Beach in East Hampton Village, and I have a wonderful episode in store for you. I have a most recent trip that both Dee and I were able to take together to the Florida Keys. So we're going to see some old friends, and we're going to see some new things. And we're also going to take you on an adventure in Montauk at the Star Ranch, where Deb Kluger's and Bonac bees removed a very unique hive and went on a really cool chase after a beautiful queen. We're also going to visit the most unbelievable place ever for our wildlife here on the eastern end of Long Island, and that's the Evelyn Wildlife Rescue and Rehab Facility in Hampton Bays. No other place like it in the whole east end of Long Island. We're really fortunate to have them here, and I can't wait to take you on a short little tour. And I'm doing it because we have a special segment that's going to show you a fox rescue that I was involved with that turned into multiple fox kits and a great ending to what could have been a really bad result of a story. So folks, beyond that, I've got a lot more to show you. We're going to have a great time. So sit back, enjoy yourself for this beautiful, outstanding end of summer special of Imagination Nature. We'll see you in just a bit. We're here with my good pal, Deb Klugers, who you've seen on our program before. We love having Deb with us and discussing our beautiful honeybees. In this segment, we're going to talk about a rather unique hive removal. I want you to talk about how unique of a situation this was.
There was a lot of things that made the situation unique. The first thing is that the property owner did not want to kill the honeybees. She kind of knew in her heart that it wasn't the right thing to do. She had asked a bunch of people, what do I do, what do I do? People told her put bleach in it, put gasoline in it, put poison in it, and she was just mortified. So she gave me a buzz, and the property actually was for sale, and she was worried that either A, it would push away potential buyers, or someone would buy it and then kill the honeybees. They had been there for years, never caused any problems, because all they do is go out and get nectar and pollen and come back, and that's basically what honeybees do. They're not aggressive. They are just they're the only creature on earth that actually leaves the earth in a better way than they found it. They pollinate our food, they make flowers into fruit, and they just a little
right. Once Tim Scott, who actually removed the outer board of the header, and it was not easy. In fact, that took quite a wrestle.
Yeah.
On scaffolding.
Yeah.
In full bee suit. Yeah. He finally broke this thing apart.
Yeah. Impressive.
And behind it was just an amazing display of hive building. There was barely any space left. It almost was like a hive on the inside. Over the years got bigger and bigger until it was literally pushing against the wood with the pressure.
Yep.
The honey just came out of it like a water faucet turned full blast.
Yeah.
As soon as the board came off, It covered Deb completely. The bees were all stuck to it, and it just really shows how dedicated Deb is into the work that she does and her care for these bees. In this particular hive that we came upon, as you started to remove it, all the while you're looking for a queen, because that's going to help you get the colony contained into a box so that you could transport it in another area. And you start removing it. You literally are sawing it off the wood and taking it out in blocks that fill the voids. As you're removing these blocks of hive and you're covered with honey, you finally remove it down to the end, but all the while you're noticing something's missing. There's no larva.
Yeah, there's no babies.
It's all nectar.
Yeah, it's something called honeybound.
That's what I wanted you to discuss. because at this point, we're starting to think we can't find the queen. And then Deb explains that this hive is honeybound and may not even have a queen. It may be a queenless hive. Didn't even know it existed. So at this point, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, wow, we really hit on something that you don't see a lot. So what does that actually mean? And is that uncommon as it seemed when we kind of...
Well, in a managed colony, where, you see the beekeeper with their boxes and all that,
right.
Going queenless is something that we would recognize. It could happen for a number of reasons. Even the beekeeper themselves could accidentally kill the queen, or she's not performing. They can make it's something called supersedure, where she's not doing a great job, she's getting old, she's not laying as good as they would like, so they will replace her. She's replaceable. Kill the queen off with her head. Okay. But in this instance, I was really, I guess, confused. Why is there no queen? Why are there no babies? This is a wild feral hive, and there should be babies, and there should be a queen. That's what keeps them all together, is her pheromones, her scent. So it was right after the nectar flow that we had. So that was filled with honey, and they were running out of room for her to lay. There was a little bit in the middle of drawn comb with no nectar. We didn't see any pollen in there either, which was very interesting because they need the pollen. They feed the babies the pollen. That's what the baby bees need to be fed, the protein, in order to grow the glands they need to be honeybees. Right. So it was very interesting.
Well, we pretty much got to the very end.
We got to the very end, and I wouldn't stop looking.
She wouldn't, and you got to understand that she's down to an area where it not only was a smaller, more restricted area to do anything in, it was almost pitch dark.
Yeah, it was pitch dark.
You couldn't see. It was inside an eave of the joint of where the corner of the barn sides came together. So it was very interesting, but all of a sudden, as we're just really kind of contemplating how we're going to wrap this up, Deb says, wait a minute, I see her. and everything, the whole mood just instantly changed with everybody. And then everything went silent, and we let Deb do her thing, and she did. And she had this special little queen catcher clip, and she went into the darkness with one hand covered with honey and bees.
First shot.
And she nailed it. And it was just you almost wanted to celebrate and pop a cork and just start cheering. But it really was good, because then again, from my perspective, and because I've worked with you before, Deb, I knew that it was going to be easier now to get the swarm, the colony, contained into the box you wanted to. Well, you took that clip that had the queen, and you put it in that box, and you left it overnight.
Yep. Here's another box of medium-sized frames that I put there. Honeycomb and their own comb. It looks pretty messy, but I wanted them to feel at home with their own stuff. You'll see all the other new stuff that I'm giving them, but this is theirs from Montauk. A little bit tricky because hope she made it, and she's in there. She's alive. I don't know if you could see her. They're all attracted to her. Looks pretty messy, but it'll do. That, my friends, is the next step in rescuing a beautiful colony. Oh, this is pretty cool. What I'm gonna do is put this feeder on, and you know, those 3 frames is a good amount, but not a lot. So this bucket has honey from them, the leftover honey. I put the other pieces of honeycomb in my other colonies.
Harvest this stuff, you have these huge parties, you spin the honey, and you make things. You make candles, you make
lip balm.
lip balm, fresh honey, which I used when I was sick last time.
Well, I got a jar for you in my car,
Oh,
buddy.
it's the best. It's the best.
Bonac bees.
So, how can people? You're on my speed dial, and I get a lot of calls, so I'm always referring you.
Yep.
How can people get a hold of you?
I'm
Best
on
way.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook. 631-377-1943. You spot a swarm. I'm on the list of swarm catchers for Long Island. There's you don't have to call me. You can call any beekeeper to catch a swarm. Please, please, please do not use poison. Call a beekeeper first. Many of us do this at no charge. Many charge. If I need a carpenter, I call in a licensed insured carpenter. If they need to charge, they will. The other thing is to be proof. Once you remove the bees, even if you spray the poison, which I don't recommend, you need to be proof. And bees can get in an area 3/8 of an inch. So I mean, you need to know your stuff to not have them come back in again. Plant flowers. You know, need 2 million blossoms to make a pound of honey. I mean,
Wow.
you know, we need a lot of flowers. A
amazing.
honeybee makes 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in her entire life. So it's a lot of little lives go into that pound of honey.
How many bees were in that colony?
I would think probably about 5,000-6,000. Yeah.
Well, Deb, thank you so much
Thank you, Dell.
for another great adventure in the lives of our local bees.
Yeah.
And another fantastic bee removal, hive removal. and I'm sure we're going to hear lots of fun and interesting things and more education from you in the future. I know we would love to have you back. As always,
Thanks for being there to help.
You're one of our
Thanks
favorite.
for being there, Dell.
I love to be helpful, especially with Deb. Deb does a lot for me and a lot of different venues of things that I do with the garbage and the wildlife and what have you. So it's always a pleasure to work with Deb. And I thank her very much for once again helping us with a great segment here. And thanks, Deb.
Thanks,
we'll see you
Deb.
next time. Good deal. An eastern milk snake. And the eastern variety, obviously, is a variety that we see here on the East Coast. Quite frankly, you can find these guys as far up as Maine, as far west as Minnesota, and then down to probably mid New Jersey. You get another of the cousins of the milk snake, which would be an intergrade. There are 6 types of milk snake. Hold on, sweetie, hold on. There's the eastern, which is this one. Then there's the intergrade. Then we have the red. We have the Central Plains milk snake. We have the Louisiana milk snake. And then the last one we have is the Mexican milk snake. This particular milk snake is an adult. They usually grow anywhere between 24 inches and 36 inches. I think the record is 52, and that's very rare for a milk snake. They're common, they're harmless, they overpower their prey, they're not constrictors, and once again, as I told you, they're not venomous. So they overpower their prey, much like our eastern garter snake and our rat snake, like all our snakes out here. This one in particular is preparing to shed. So you look at this beautiful, and I'm going to try to show you up close, this beautiful pattern that you see on this snake. And the one thing about the eastern milk snake is that its belly is a checkerboard, and that's how you can tell it from other milk snakes, because it's the only milk snake with a checkerboard. And you can see it's beginning to peel its skin. And the reason I know he's shedding is if you can look closely at the eye, if I can get you to see that, you'll notice it's blue. It's got a milky blue skin over it. And that's part of the skin that's going to be shed. When the snake is preparing to shed, it sheds the complete body skin, and that's from the nose. It starts with the nose, it rubs up against a hard surface where it splits open the skin, and then it works its face through the skin, and it peels its body out, just like a sock. And of course it'll leave the skin behind, and maybe some of you have seen that before. So here's our buddy, the milk snake. Now I'm going to let him get close and see if you can't tell how beautiful that is. What you're seeing from his head back to my hand is all beautiful new shiny skin. In fact, it's gone from a brown color to a nice rusty color, and it just looks so magnificent and clean and perfect. Here you can see the skin still on him, and he's pulling it away. He's trying his very best. Okay, you can see the skin coming off, and it's a very dry skin. However, now the snake feels very cold. He's still not wet and slimy like we discussed, but he's got kind of a very a cold feeling. He's a cold-blooded animal. So this beauty, who's going to work his way up my arm, I wish you could see his underbelly. Look at that checkerboard. It's black and white, shiny, glossy. And then, if you look at the back of the tail, you see where it's still dull and brown. So you can see the difference side by side here in a second. Hold on, sweetie. See? Can you see the difference? Right there. There you're seeing everything. That's a great shot. The head back, you can see, is brand new. Everything in behind his frontal body is old still, and you can see the shedding right in the middle. Look at the skin hanging. Okay? Hey folks, we have here a young kid fox who is in very desperate need of help. She's a youngster. She's covered with mange lice, and we can save her. We need to get her antibiotics, put her on a plan. So we're fixing to get her transferred to the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue Center, where they have the resources to save this poor little girl. And she will get that help, and she will make it. And then she'll be able to be released back into the wild and be stronger. Right now, she's in bad shape. She's missing hair completely on her tail, her legs, both front and back, and her face. And the skin is so irritated, it's red. What isn't scabbed or bleeding is bright red. She's sitting here whining. Fortunately, it took me one night to trap her because she was so hungry. What's really fortunate, though, is she doesn't have a lot of tick issues. Ticks will sometimes take advantage of the bare skin and really cause even more damage. With foxes in particular, when they're not strong enough, the ticks will attach themselves to the eyelids, the lips, as well as the skin around the ears. And it really becomes very hard for them to see and eat and to remove these ticks from their face. Oh, I know, sweet pea, it's going to be okay. Folks, I'm here with the fox that we caught the other day. I'm here with its sibling. As you can see, this one is an equal amount of pain. Mange is so bad, his eyes are almost completely closed. His one eye can open a little so he can see, but it would have been very difficult for him to survive in the wild in this condition. You can see his snout is bleeding, probably from trying to rub the lice off his face. The skin around his ears, as well as his tail is just so dry and cracked. He needs medical attention very quickly. So we have a transport ready to take him up to the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue Center. We'll get it stable. Hopefully it'll be okay. We can get it with its other sibling, which will be a good thing. Get them both better. And hope for the best for these little guys.
Hey, stop! Kiki! Gammy, come out here, Gammy! No, you're not coming? Alright, be like that. Be the smallest one. Oh, itty bitty. Right, guys? Gammy, you want to come out? You want to come out? What?
Get him, Sophie. Get him. Get that dog. Get him. What are you doing? What are you doing, Sophie? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, yes, yeah, you bite me. Best friends.
Oh, Sophie and Sochi, I can't even keep them straight anymore. They play all the time.
Look at that. Oh.
Button is the bad guy, right? Because he didn't rough. You're a real, and actually she's even worse.
Hey folks, we're here in front of the Key West Butterfly and Nature Conservatory. We're about ready to go inside and enjoy the wonderful butterflies. And I hear they have a couple other surprises in there, like some tropical birds. We're gonna go check it out, so come on, join us. How you doing? I'm here with George Fernandez of the Key West Butterfly and Nature Conservatory. George, I want to thank you for letting us come here and visit your awesome place here. I mean, you walk in, we've been to a lot of butterfly conservatories, but you walk in here and you get triple the amount of butterflies you ever saw right off the bat. And there's some really great species. How many species here, George?
Between 40 to 50 different species.
40 to 50. It's amazing. What's even more interesting is they mix the butterflies in with these birds, which are all tropical birds, and they're just beautiful. I'm going to take pictures and you'll see them. But George, can you tell us a little bit of why butterflies and bees are so important for our ecology? And we know the educational value, but what is the value to our ecology for this type of species?
Thank you. Extremely valuable. I'd like to first start by saying that butterflies are a perfect barometer of your environment. If they're not around, more than likely two factors. Insecticide encroaching into their habitat are the biggest problems that we face today. The number one pollinator are the bees. Number two are the butterflies. So that shows you the importance of their role for flowers, fruits, and vegetables.
So how do you choose, George? How do you choose what butterflies to introduce into your conservatory? I mean, you've chosen the most colorful and magnificent looking butterflies, some of which I've never seen before.
Well, I think we've answered the question. It says that we work with butterfly houses, butterfly farms, I should say, from Central America, South America, Africa, Southeast Asia.
Wow.
So we're looking for those butterflies that are unique, that are beautiful, that are very, very special. There's over 17,500 different species throughout the world. But from these butterfly farms that we work with and that we import the chrysalis to the Key West Butterfly Nature Conservatory, we're able to see some of the most unique ones. The question is, what's the most beautiful butterfly that you're proud to have here? They're all beautiful.
I would have never asked you that question, George, because if I couldn't think of an answer, I'd be putting you on the spot. The flamingos, the birds, all the beautiful butterflies, the plants, the educational value here is extraordinary. I think you do an outstanding thing Here, as we all know, we're back on Long Island. We're big fans of the butterfly. And we're very concerned of the monarch now. Everybody's looking for them and they count them. So when you run into somebody, you'll say, you know, how you doing today? Well, I've only saw one monarch all summer and I'm a little worried. Okay, and that just shows people are very attentive to this stuff. But George, I really want to thank you again for having us and enjoying us to enjoy this and bringing it home to our fans back home in New York. We really appreciate it. Everybody that comes down to Key West, please come visit George and his wonderful staff here at the Key West Butterfly and Nature Conservatory. You will just love it. Thanks again, George. Let's go take some great pictures so we can show everybody. It's okay, sweet pea. I'm gonna go bring you to Dr. T and get you checked out, okay? Okay, buddy? What a beauty. You're okay, sweetie. You're okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. What a beautiful bird. Let me see. You got a little... I think you got something going on under your chin there, buddy. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You ready? I'm going to help you. You want to go for a ride? All right, sweetie. That's okay. I hope you enjoyed that, folks. But now, something even more special. The previous episode, we went to the Turtle Hospital in Marathon, Florida, in the Keys. And we visited with a wonderful group of people that have a not-for-profit organization. And all they do is rescue and save and rehabilitate sea turtles. They open up the facility to the public for a small fee, which is what they rely on for the whole operation and caring for these animals. Now, folks, there was a particular turtle, a loggerhead, that had been severely injured by a prop on a boat that we saw last time. His name was Chuck Norris. So on our most recent visit, we went back to the Turtle Hospital to get an update on Chuck and see how he was making out. Perfect timing. We happened to arrive on the day that Chuck was going to be released. So here's a couple clips and couple shots that we took while we were there visiting Chuck, and to show you all. But once again, folks, you know, any donations to the wonderful organization at the Turtle Hospital in Marathon, Florida would be money well donated. Thank you again. I really love that story. These people do some wonderful work. Folks, I also want to end this Key West segment by showing you just a couple things from not only Leah's Ark, but also a special opportunity we had at the Miami Zoo. I wanted to do a segment on how the new perspective of our wildlife and wildlife from around the world, how they are portrayed and displayed here, particularly in our country. A lot of talk has been circulating about circuses and zoos and the treatment of animals. And we thought it would be interesting to go to one of the more highly respected zoos and see what kind of changes and what kind of way they operate the facility that makes it beneficial for the animals. Now, we were really fortunate through the help of our location coordinator, Vincent Isaboli, to get in touch, and I spoke with personally Mr. Ron McGill. Now, Mr. Ron McGill is not only the head cheese up there at the Miami Zoo, but he's also a very, very well known and respected wildlife photographer and expert of our wildlife. He's a 5-time Emmy Award winner for his documentaries on wildlife. So we were really fortunate, I particularly, to speak with Ron personally, and we had planned to meet with Ron. Unfortunately, the morning of our plan, one of the giraffes at the zoo gave birth, and Ron couldn't make our meeting, but instead had to care to the giraffe and oversee that whole addition to the zoo. So we were thankfully giving VIP passes to the zoo, and Ron set us up really good to really kind of explore the zoo and take a look and see what was going on. Now, honestly, I want to say that without Ron being there to explain exactly the kind of questions that we were really looking for, we didn't really get to cover that aspect of what I had hoped this segment would have covered. However, we did get to see some of the animals, and they are in no doubt wonderful cageless habitats, and also these are animals that obviously many of them couldn't be released back into the wild for a variety of circumstances. And also, this zoo was very in tune with the conservation aspect and the making sure that these creatures exist and don't become endangered. So let's not jump to conclusions and rely on rumors and myths, and let's wait and speak with the people in charge. Okay? Thanks, folks. Folks, the next segment I'm going to talk about a very, very special place. It's the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue and Rehab Facility in Hampton Bays. Without these people, folks, it would be a completely different game in the rehabilitation of our wildlife and for our wildlife in distress. A lot of folks out here are individual volunteers that can do wildlife rescue. They're trained. A lot of them have been trained by the Evelyn Alexander Rehab Facility. However, a lot of folks that do it on their own, like myself for one, volunteer for the Evelyn Alexander so we could cover a wider area for animals or wildlife in distress. So now, folks, join me as I take you on a very special inside tour of the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue and Rehab Center. I'm here with Virginia Frady of the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue and Rehab Facility here in Hampton Bays. Virginia, can you tell us a little bit about the operation here and like when it started and how you became involved?
We opened up here in the year 2000. We're on Munns Pond County Park in Hampton Bays. We approached the Suffolk County Parks Department when we saw that there was an unused, dilapidated building here. We thought it'd be a nice, quiet, woodsy area to have a rehab center. And we asked them, Parks Commissioner, and he actually was quite pleased to have us open up a wildlife center here. So we've been here since the year 2000, and we take in all injured native wildlife, injured, sick, orphaned wildlife on the East End, and do our best to get them the medical care they need, the nutrition, and get them back out in the wild where they belong, give them a second chance.
And you also have a hospital right on site here, is that correct?
Well, we do, under our staff veterinarian, our medical director, Dr. Justin Molnar, and our board member, Dr. Jonathan Turetsky. We do have a full medical facility with a surgical area, oxygen, a mini lab. We could take blood samples, lead tests. We get waterfowl in that have a lot of lead in their system. We can test for that. Bandages, we do bandage changes, sutures, any immediate first aid that an animal needs.
So what kind of staff, other than, you know, having Dr. Turetsky be able to be on call, you have a staff that are here daily on site as well, correct?
We do. We have full-time and some part-time staff people. We have a lot of staff people now in the summertime. And we also have about 30 volunteers. We couldn't do it without them. We do have like over 200 animals right now, and it's very chaotic and a little overwhelming. But soon the quiet time is coming, and we'll get to enjoy and spruce the place up and have a nice, cozy winter.
So all these fawns are in here having been in distress or injured, covered with ticks, abandoned, whatever the case.
Yes, most hit by cars.
Most hit by cars. And they're brought here into this really nice area where they can be safe and sheltered and run around without worrying about them getting out. But the most important part of this enclosure would be the adopting mother, who's right behind me, and that would be Miss Jane Doe. Hi, Jane. Jane is the mother, the surrogate mother to all these little guys and gals who are here for recovery. Now, what's the story with Jane?
Jane came in a few years ago with a severe head injury, and she only gained very little sight back in her eyes, and it's evident that she couldn't survive in the wild. And she took to the fawns right away and started taking care of them and nursing them and mothering them, and we found that the fawns stay wild that way. We want to keep our human contact as less as possible. We don't want them to get tame and used to humans, so Jane serves the perfect means to keep them wild. They take to her and she takes to them.
If a mother dies from getting hit by a car,
yes,
isn't it known that these other does of these white-tailed deer will pick up the animals and raise them?
Yes, and we have done that too, where we've known that the mother's been killed and we've taken in a baby fawn. And an area where we know there's a lot of deer, we bring the fawn back to that area, and the deer let the fawn cry out, and another mother will come and accept the deer. We've done it ourselves. It takes a lot of time, but to sit and foster, to wait and make sure that a mother's going to come out and accept it. But yes, they will take other fawns in that are not their own. They're amazing animals.
They're very intelligent animals. One other question I wanted to ask you, Virginia, is about Evelyn Alexander. I don't know too much about her. I figured this would be a great time for me to ask you the question.
Well, one of our biggest supporters, he likes what we do. His mother was a great lover of animals. And in a year when we were not doing very well, he offered his help and gave us an endowment in honor of his mother, Evelyn Alexander, who had passed away now. And so we named the facility after her.
Awesome. That's very, very neat. And I guess one other thing I wanted to know about was you do have certain animals here, is that correct, that cannot be released, and you do have educational permits, so you do offer, well, not offer, you're at many events over the summer, and I'm sure throughout the year, where you actually give people the opportunity to get up close and meet some of these wild animals like owls and hawks. But when these animals can't be released into the wild, sometimes it's better to save them for educational value than to have to euthanize them because they don't have the quality of life they need to survive in the wild.
Right, and we need to make sure that their cages give them the quality of life that they need to have a comfortable life. It's a hard decision, but we feel that showing these animals to the public, it gives them an idea of the wildlife that's in their own backyard and how to protect it, protect their habitats, make more environmentally responsible choices in their lives. So by seeing these animals up close, where they otherwise wouldn't get a chance to see them that close, it can teach them a good lesson as well.
As well as respect,
yes,
which is most important.
Yes,
it has
absolutely.
to start there. You take this educational opportunity very seriously, and you offer it to pretty much everyone, and you're willing to even go to them to teach them. I mean, I've had you come out to Amagansett to teach groups from Montauk that are interested, and I know you do this constantly. So really, I mean, this is like for lack of a better term, a one-stop shop for all angles of the wildlife spectrum. And you're doing everything here, and you're doing it with a group of special volunteers and staff members, and yourself, Virginia. You're quite highly respected in our community beyond the wildlife circuit, but of course for the wildlife, you're quite the advocate. And thanks to you, we in the community who are involved in wildlife and in the rescue field, we feel comfortable knowing that this is where they end up. And once they get here, they have the best chances of getting back into the wild in the proper way. And I want to thank you for that personally, and I'm sure everybody wants to as well.
Thank you for all you do, too. You do a tremendous amount of rescuing in East Hampton.
Not at all. We have a bunch of great volunteers there as well. It's quite a network.
It is.
You've started, and we're continuing to create. It's getting more and more every year, which is amazing. And here we are with our little fox friends. Here's two of them anyway. We still have the third one separated. And as you can tell from the hair on the tail and their pretty little faces, that they are coming along wonderfully, responding very well to their treatment and the good care that they're receiving here at the Wildlife Center. They look so much better. I'm just thrilled to see their faces not scratched raw, their hair on their paws and their noses, their eyes open, and of course their beautiful tails are getting hair back on them as well. So that's just a great, great sign. Let's go say hello to the third one, who's still kept separate because they started the treatment a week apart. And here's the third little guy, the last one we brought in. And he was also in some rough shape, although not as bad as his siblings. But as you can see, he's wide-eyed, and I will add bushy-tailed as well, getting there. And this little guy is on his way back to a full recovery. How can people help? How can people help you to continue doing what you're doing? How can people help animals like Jane Doe and all the little ones that she cares for, and all the 200 plus animals that you're presently caring for that continue to come in and go out? So how can people really step up and help you?
Those two ways. Donations that's the only way we actually operate, is through donations. We don't get any government funding, so donations are probably the number one on our list, so we can keep the place going, continue to take animals. The other thing too is volunteering, especially for transport. There's a lot of traffic on the East End, and once the animal is rescued, it's very difficult to get the animal here, transported here, because the traffic is so bad. So we always look for people that were working in East Hampton, that maybe live in the western part of the county, to please consider on your way home giving us a call and seeing if there's maybe a transport that you could do. That's probably the number one thing we could use right now.
Well, let's make sure we get that word out there and see if we can't drum up some of those very things so that we can keep this beautiful healing space for these animals, the deer, the birds, the small mammals, all of it. We have such a large abundance of wildlife here on the East End, and we should feel very fortunate to have them, and to know that there's a place that they can come to when they need help and care. So thank you, Virginia, and thank you for what you do, and all your volunteers and all your staff. Hey folks, we're here at a very special location on a very special day. I just picked up the first fox that I rescued a month and a half ago, and the animal is well, it's mange free, and it's ready to be released. So they called me up and they said, Dell, would you like to release it? Absolutely. So I'm here with the first one. The other two, because they came later, started the program later. In fact, they failed their fecal test this morning, so they need a little bit more treatment, but they'll be released back into the wild very soon. But meanwhile, we can get started. This one's fine. We need to get them back in the wild, and that's what we're here to do. So I'm glad you're here to join me in this, and we're going to release them. So let's get to it. Are you ready to be free? Are you ready? You sure look healthy enough. Look at you. Your nose, your ears, they're all so perfect. You've got hair on your tail. Oh, I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. That's a good girl. There she is. There she is. Go ahead, honey. Come on, you come out. Come see me. Come on. Come on. She's very shy. You come out. You can come out and be a good girl. Yes, you can. There she goes. There she goes. Folks, I want to thank once again the Evelyn Alexander Wildlife Rescue and Rehab Center in Hampton Bays, and all of the awesome staff and volunteers and Virginia Fratty and everyone there that helped make this fox be able to re-enter the natural environment for where it belongs. Folks, they do amazing stuff here. This is just a small example of the many, many animals that they save on a daily basis. Everything that we need to keep our wildlife safe, healthy, and a beautiful part of our local community. Their work is amazing, their staff is amazing, the volunteership is out of this world, and what they do, well, you just saw a little bit of it. So I also want to thank all the people on social media who donated to the recovery of this fox and its two siblings, who will also be released as soon as they're well enough to go. But we wanted to get this one on camera for you. It's the full cycle of what a bunch of amazing people are out there doing, along with what I try to do here for the wildlife, and that is just be there for them when they need help. Wildlife is wildlife. We're losing it at a rapid pace. So we really need to begin to be much more attentive and be there to help these animals. Thanks again.